I guess, custom would be the best word. 803. So 803 is, I'll say it, the worst named product that's in our lineup at this moment in time. It needs a better name. We're not going to have a name contest here, but it does need a better name in my opinion. It is a 19% protein, 5.5% fat, 3.5% fiber, 1,4 lysine product. This can be, most of the 803 that you're going to see here is going to be ground. They probably don't even hardly ever carry any pellets, I would imagine, of 803, but would be in a ground situation here. If you've ever heard the nomenclature 800, if you've been really kind of familiar with the Sunglo products, 800 and 803 are the same diets, or even 811, which would be the product, this feed with added Paline. 800 and 803 are the exact same diet. The only difference is 803 is medicated. 800 has no medication whatsoever. So now 803 comes standard with Denagard. And what's the withdrawal in Denagard? Like 2 days, I mean, it's virtually nothing from a withdrawal standpoint. So with that being said, 803 can be fed with no problem to baby pigs, but then also to big pigs towards the end. You know, that last kind of 2 week to 3 week push, so you need to see a little more bulk, a little more shape and mass. That's when you can use 803. So it is a very versatile product. It's not just for starters. We can use it at the end as well. So Brandon, kind of explain, you know, how we get that protein drop in 803 from a base mix standpoint as we step down from starter to 803.
Yeah, so that's the nice thing. I think if you look at our program, there are certain things that have a very small slide in terms of change, and I would say if you look at starter to 803, it's going to be a very simple change. It's going to be very minute. So they actually utilize the same base mix. So if you look at everything from a vitamin, trace mineral standpoint, all the goodies, the plasma, the whey, all of those high-quality animal-based proteins that a young pig or a young animal nutritionally really depends on, they're embedded in 803 at the exact same rate as what they are in starter. The difference would be the level of corn and bean meal. And so, you know, that's why we back the bean meal down just a little bit, replace it with corn, and then that gives us the difference in terms of protein and those things. Now, what is really interesting is I would tell you I feed a high percentage of this in ground form at my place, and this would be what I utilize in the chip barn phase. Once we leave the nursery, this would be what we use in ground form. Why do we use it in ground? Honestly, we seem like we get more belly and more body. And when we're on starter, maybe in the nursery for some animals, maybe a little too long, feel like that they soften, they smooth up just a little bit quicker when we go to that ground version. And then I do medicate mine differently in the chip barn than Denagard myself. That's where I use Mecadox at my place in the chip barn. However, if you would order 803 coming from Lewisburg in pellet form, it's going to come with Denagard as an option there from a medication. Again, unless you need to have 4 ton, and then it would come with a different medication of whatever you would want from that standpoint. However, base floor stock would be Denagard. Obviously, in my stance, I cannot use my ground 803 on big pigs because Mecadox has a 42-day withdrawal. That's why we have Denagard embedded in 803 that is made in pellet form. And so really, what is interesting is although there's only a slight change in bean meal versus starter, is what you'll see in those animals is they flesh easier, they bloom easier, and they just kind of relax just a little bit in terms of muscle. And so I always tell people if you go a little too far on starter, get on some 803, they will bloom and flesh just a little bit better than what they were on starter just by dropping your bean meal and your lysine just a little bit. But again, I would say a great dual-purpose product. I actually like feeding the 803 pellets on big pigs at the end. Feed 803 ground on my babies in chip barn is what we like.
So let's talk. It's not on this slide, but I guess technically not even on really isn't listed much of anywhere. If you want to talk about transition, what was the feed that we did push for quite a while? It's kind of gone to the wayside just a little bit in terms of how we are selling it or marketing it, but it can be made very, very easily just on farm, really, from just a blending standpoint, if you want to touch on that. So, and when you would want to use that, or if you'd want to.
Yeah, so again, we do not offer a pelleted transition diet. All of our external manufacturers have access and opportunity. You know, if you said you needed a ton or 2 ton of transition here from Matthews, we can get that made. I mean, it's possible to do. It is simple. It's a half inclusion of our 650 base and a half inclusion of show base. So basically, it is a half nursery type product and a half grower type product. The real reason that it comes into play is cost from an economical standpoint. And what I've personally seen is in the days of a lot of online sales, which there's still a significant amount of them, there was a period in time where some of those animals would stay at people's places for maybe 2 to 3 weeks, and people were kind of tired of feeding them expensive nursery feeds, honestly. And this diet really allowed people to still keep them looking nice, but save some cost. And so I would tell you, as pigs get bigger and heavier in weight, I know Kyle will talk a little bit here through the time where he's utilized transition at his place, for pigs that are getting bigger, heavier weight, they're eating more feed, and they're costing more money, but we will need to still keep them looking appropriate. Ultimately, it is a good diet to help transition that gut to reducing your level of fish, blood, whey, all those animal-based proteins, and really transition the enzymes in the gut to more of a grain-based protein diet. And so ultimately, there is some gut changeover that happens because what we generally see is if you just go from 803 to 18G or 16G, those pigs could get just a little bit loose.
We've all seen it. We've all done it. Right?
Absolutely. It's not going to hurt them at the end of the day, but if you're trying to sell pigs in that stage, it's probably not the most ideal time to do it.
So even a simpler way to put it would be if you've got a bag of 803 and you got a bag of 18G and you mix them 50-50, essentially you're making transition.
Yep. And that's pretty easy to do on a one pig basis,
correct,
especially if you went to a sale and picked up a pig.
Right.
But if you've got 60, 70 pigs on feed, and you just had an online sale last night, and you're telling yourself, man, I want to get these things out of here. We need to keep them looking nice, but yet save the pocketbook. That's a really nice diet to go on if you're going to sit on those pigs for another 10 days.
Might depend on how good the sale went.
Possibly.
Yeah.
Or if you're going to keep pigs and you're breeding pigs just to show yourself, and it doesn't really matter what they look like. You can navigate through these phases just a little bit faster to still get the gut transitioned ideally.
Well, and we can touch on that. We'll touch on it more with Kyle too, but it might also depend on how you plan on marketing those pigs too. If you're going to sell a bunch of them off farm, right? When it's just, hey, I'm going to come look at pigs, and you're pre-pricing them off the farm, well, they maybe don't have to be as woofy, right? They don't have to be as ready as maybe if you're going to a baby pig sale, or maybe if you want them, or you're doing a preview somewhere, you got to have them pictured and they need to look absolutely perfect, right? There's all different ways that obviously there's more ways to market a baby pig now than what there ever has been. So my bias would be kind of tailor your program with the end in mind on how you plan on marketing that pig. So as you're thinking about that, you need to be thinking about the feeding decisions we're making regarding that end of it as well.